after another kind of a thing like that, in a way that what we did last semester is going to help us do what we're going to do this semester, which is going to help us do then the whole first year, what we're going to do then next semester as we begin that. And so every once in a while, still revisit this stuff and remind yourself of this stuff. And of course, we will be reminding ourselves of this stuff throughout our discussions in class. All this stuff. So anyway, how did you do? How did it feel? Did you guys work together? Did you get this done? All right? But, and do bear with me, I do have, like I said, most people, they say to themselves, gee whiz, I don't think I'm feeling well. Let me rest. Not me. I say, gee whiz, I don't think I'm feeling well. Let me see how much I can get done. Anyway, and so bear with me a little bit this morning. Do I get all these? Cool, cool, cool. All right. I do have the stages of change, like I said, in process. Have your copy of that in process. Hopefully it'll come. Did you guys hear what's coming? Huh? 3.5 to 4.5 inches of snow, depending on who you listen to. And then 5 below 0 by Thursday.
Thank you.
You didn't hear that? 5 below 0 they're calling for by Thursday.
It's not 50 below 0. Like
Not
last year, though.
well, yeah, last year.
Go on Valentine's Day.
You guys remember last year? It was,
Yes.
and in fact, I think we even had I guess you wouldn't call it a snow day, but it had a cold day. One day last year, I think they did finally call up school.
It's dumb.
It was so bad. But I remember, anybody from
I don't
Morton?
get those days.
Anybody, Morton, I teach Monday, Wednesday, and Fridays, Morton High School at 7 o'clock in the morning, that 0-hour thing.
Oh, yeah.
Dual credit psychology. And in the middle of that stuff, so, you know, it was like 22 below, it was like 50 wind chill. Everybody around was canceling school. I had to drive my ass to Morton. They don't cancel, do they? They don't cancel for anything over there. So, but, and another very important piece of news, spring training starts this week.
Oh, sports. Yeah, teams.
Baseball, I meant.
I know.
But, hey gang, what we're going to do today, as we continue now moving forward, we've got this out of the way. Please don't be done with this. Do refresh yourself with this information, your notes and all that stuff, on a regular basis. And you will be tested on this stuff again, in addition to the new materials and things like that. So the end of this semester, the test is going to be a lot more than it was this one. Does that make sense? You'll be tested on this again at the beginning of next semester. At the end of next semester, you'll be tested over all 3 semesters worth of stuff, like I said. And that's not to scare you or, oh gee whiz, aren't I a big shot bully? No. What it is every single thing we talk about in this class, every single thing is essential for your ability to build. How does it work again? In comes that client information, meshes with your fund of knowledge. Meshes with that. All this stuff you need to know. And so much of this stuff is think on your feet stuff. Meshes with that so that out goes that next best clinical response. And so much of this, it is think on your feet. It's not like, well, I see you have a razor to your neck. Could you hold a minute? I got to go to the office and look something up. I'll be right back. No, it's right now. You have to have this information ready and able to use it. Does that make sense? And so don't let this go. You're not done with this yet. And then I will hopefully have this back to you guys maybe by, don't expect it on Thursday, but hopefully by Tuesday. All right? What I want to do today, hey, and we did look at this at the end of last semester as we started talking about assessment and and cover this, but I want to do it again. Redundancy is good, and this stuff is so important as we begin this. We did start talking about stuff on Thursday, though. That very important, great big picture of the assessment process, what it is and how it fits into counseling. And again, if you remember, the whole from where we are now, the goals, that whole diagram and all that stuff we had on the board. What I want to hear, real quick, and it's not because I need applause, it's because this is how you tell your brain, yes, I love this stuff, I want to know this stuff. Let me hear wow points from Thursday. Let me hear any wow points from Thursday. Anybody? What was it? Wow point, something. Wow. That is, yeah, I never thought of that. Wow. That is a neat connection. Wow. Yes, I want to remember that. This is going to be important. Anybody, a wow point? And if there are no wow points, then clear off your desk and we will have a quiz from what we talked about last Thursday. Any wow points from last Thursday?
I think it's just the concept of congruence. That's where you as the counselor kind of have to have your own shit together, right?
As we started to talk about that, you guys, yes, from the very beginning, one of the things we talked about Thursday is there are several major advantages of assessment. And of course, to look at it, and one of the big mistakes counselors make is that they look at assessment as just some stupid thing we got to do. Let's hurry up and get this over with. Fill out this form. We'll get this dumb assessment done so we can start counseling. No, gang. Assessment is the most important part of counseling. What did I say again Thursday? How the hell are you going to know what to do about something if you don't know what it is in the first place? And one of the big advantages of the assessment process, what a great time to start to form what did I call it?
Empathy bond.
The empathy bond, that relationship. You know, guys, I don't care what, and I'm not a humanist per se, I'm cognitive behavioral, but that humanist, that whole idea of forming that empathy bond, and as I call it, and again, the importance of that, and you can begin that right as you seek to know who this person is. Your ability to convey to that person, to demonstrate to that person, you really do care. I'm not going to just label you, you're another one of those dope fiends, another one of those alcoholics or something. I really want to know who you are. I want to get to know you. Your ability to do that can start to form the foundation of that very important, again, empathy bond, clinical relationship. And gang, I'm going to tell you right now, I don't care how good you are at any other counseling strategy, technique, or anything else. You're crackerjack motivational interviewing. You're the best with the RET or whatever else it may be. If you don't form that bond to start with, nothing else is going to be quite as good, as effective as it had you formed that bond. Does that make sense? And that's what we started to talk about then, the issue of forming that bond, another humanistic concept, the if-then hypotheses. And how did that go? If certain conditions are present in the therapist. You know, let's say about the therapist here. If certain conditions are present in the therapist, then growth and positive change can take place in the client. And that is so important. And what were those three conditions? Well, the first is congruence. And gang, you guys do have, you know what, becoming a counselor does not mean that you somehow or another have stepped beyond the normal human experience. Becoming a counselor doesn't mean that all of a sudden you can walk on water. But it does mean you have a responsibility. And again, this idea of congruence, one of the major ideas behind humanistic client-centered therapy is what? It's very non-directive. In other words, you're not going to sit there. The humanistic counselor, the clients sometimes in the beginning kind of think, what am I paying for here? You're not telling me anything. The humanistic counselor is not going to give answers, tell people what to do, what to think, how to fix something. They're not going to do that. It's going to be more non-directive. They believe the answer is inside you, within you. They believe you have the capacity. That's that third thing. Unconditional positive regard. My true belief in your capacity to change. You may not be there yet. You may need to discover things about yourself yet, but they believe that that is in you. And this idea, if you just come to a counseling session and I just sit there, well, let me fix this, let me tell you this, let me tell you, fix this, well, that's nice. And then next Monday you show up, your life's a mess again, we fix everything again. And they don't, instead of that, what they want you to do is find yourself. And as you discover yourself, you will discover the solutions to the problems you may be experiencing right now, including the issues as they wrap themselves around the hedonic calculus and what we talked about Thursday. You're not going to tell that client, you're going to let them discover themselves via their relationship with you, the counselor. You're going to serve, if you will, as a kind of a mirror for that counselor. And then what was the idea? That if you're going to be that mirror, well, hopefully you're going to be relatively, not too many cracks or smudges in your mirror, kind of a thing. You know, I mean, talk about, and this has happened. It happens a lot. People show up on Saturday morning for their dry roads counseling. They've got a DUI or something. They show up for dry roads counseling on Saturday morning, and the counselor, you can smell alcohol in their breath. You're going to sit there and say, what the hell, this guy's going to tell me about drinking? And that, well, it's the same in general. You guys know, just because you become a counselor doesn't mean you'll walk on water, but it does mean you kind of have a responsibility to try and keep your house in order. Does that make sense? That you do understand this stuff well enough that you can't walk it yourself. If you can't walk it yourself, how the hell are you supposed to teach that to somebody else? Does that make sense? That kind of a thing like that. And so that idea, that first condition, congruence, that the counselor has their act together. Does that make sense? And that is so very important. And then, of course, what were the other two? Well, the second one was empathy. Again, that true. And we'll be looking at this a lot more throughout this and next semester's discussions. Again, that true, real ability to feel that client. What was that term I used last semester a lot? That client needs to
Feel felt.
Feel felt. And that a true, and not only capacity, but a real, genuine desire, interest in doing that. And that client needs to believe that. What did I say? Never, don't get caught in a lie with this stuff. I feel you. And then the very next thing you do or say obviously indicates you don't. That kind of thing. I understand you. And then the next thing, oh, by the way, don't forget, understand. And this is so important, guys. And I know, redundancy here. We've talked about this. All right, Kelsey, you said that. I'm going to say it again. And don't forget, with this stuff, there is a distinct and very important difference between understand and endorse or agree with or approve of. Does that make sense? And with empathy, that's where it can get tough. I think that you're spewing out right now the biggest pile of bullshit I have heard in a long time. What the hell? And that, somehow or another, I got to get past that. You're pissing me off. This is the stupidest damn shit. What the fuck is it? You're insulting me. Do I look stupid? Do I got stupid written on my face? That kind of a thing like that. And somehow or another, I have to be able to move past that and enjoying that. You see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And I understand where this thing. I can understand why you may be thinking this is a good thing to do and say right now. You understand what I'm saying with that? That I understand. I understand. I can understand why. And again, that's built around all the stuff we talk about. That client who is terrified. That client who is feeling so helpless. Learned helplessness. No sense of efficacy. I am nothing but another major threat in their life. An intrusion in their hedonic calculus. And of course, I can understand where and how and why. That may be your experience right now, and why I can understand why you're doing these things, saying these things, acting this way. But that doesn't mean I think it's okay. Doesn't mean I approve of it or agree with it or what you're saying. But you have to be able to. If you don't, and what happens is that counselor, they do get pissed off. I've heard enough of this and all that kind of shit. Every day, everybody, all you damn alcoholics, you're all the same. All you damn dope fiends, you're so full of shit. And that kind of thing. I've had it. I'm tired of listening to this bullshit. If you don't get your head out of your ass, well, and that kind of a thing like that. And they will then react accordingly. And now, instead of establishing that empathy bond, making a set of circumstances where change will be a possibility one of these days, this person has just created what? A very contentious battleground. Who's in control here? Who's got the power? Who wins? Do you see what I'm saying? And not only does that not help that client very much, but don't forget also it's going to destroy or at least seriously interrupt that empathy bond. Another thing, gang, with this. Hey, I told you never forget last semester. How about this one? Somebody, what am I talking about right here if we're not careful? What was that called? Extinction anxiety. In other words, that client, again, you give into this right at that point right there. And this can happen from the first. I mean, that client, they're gonna start this. Why? Well, because they're a big dumb asshole who doesn't give a damn. That's why, right? No, because they are terrified. They are afraid. They don't know where to start with this. And what happened? They've been using these techniques on counselors and other people. It defines their what? Who they are, their what? Say it.
Addiction survival.
Addiction, survival, persona. This is how I protect myself from things I don't want to hear. This is how I use that kind of a thing like that. They've been using this. And then again, I'm going to be a good counselor. I'm not going to feed into that stuff. But then you let yourself go. And you start to feed into that stuff. Again, just like candy bar, candy bar, candy bar. No. Okay, have the candy bar, you asshole. What did mom just do? She wants that candy bar asking behavior to go away, but by giving, she just strengthened the very behaviors she wanted to see go away. It's the same thing with this client. Don't think just because you spend the first couple of minutes not giving in that this is solved. What's that client going to do? They're going to try harder. They're going to look harder, find a way, until you finally give in. And then they win, because guess what? Now, guess what we're not talking about right now?
Me.
The stuff I'm afraid of. Yes, I got to sit here and listen to you call me a big dumb asshole, but you know what? That's better than talking about the stuff I don't want to talk about. And then it also has worked again. Hey, you know what? Even with this counselor, if I try hard enough, I will get it. I will win this. There are all those things working together with that, you guys. And again, the assessment. What a wonderful place to start a new track record with all this stuff and get this moving right and establish that empathy bond. And then what was that second major advantage? Well, because you need to know this stuff. Once again, how the hell are you supposed to know what it is you need to work on if you don't know what the hell it is in the first place? And you need to know this person. And again, well beyond just that, what did we call it? That nomothetic label. Well beyond that. It's not just alcoholic, pothead, dope fiend, or whatever. You've got to be able to move from that nomothetic label to what? What was that? That individualized case conceptualization. That individualized case conception. How is this fitting? All this stuff. How is this fitting into what becomes this unique human individual's hedonic calculus? How is this working for this person? That hedonic calculus, don't forget, as long as it is working, they're going to keep doing it that way. We have to get to know this person, understand this person in a way that we can help this person establish a new. Well, next semester, we're going to call it cognitive negotiation strategy. Cognitive, gang, it's about the way we're thinking. And we have to help this person establish a new way of thinking. Again, about their wants and twos, threes and fours, about this, about that. The whole thing, the cognitive dissonance stuff, and how that is a part of their, once again, addiction survival persona. Help this person establish a whole new way of thinking. What do I call that? Their cognitive thinking negotiation style, strategy. In a way that it renders that hedonic calculus isn't working anymore. And when that happens, change will occur. Does that make sense? You can start to do that from the very start. How many people have perused, looked through, and again, I apologize, but I will have yours for you hopefully by Thursday. Hopefully this stuff and the stages of change will be here Thursday. If we are. No, I don't think it would. They are calling for 3.5, 4.5 inches, but we should have a cancellation, I don't think.
We have enough salt in this state.
Give me a
But
Back when I was a kid, with 15 feet of snow, and I walked to school. Right.
how many people have perused that? How many people have looked through? And if you haven't yet, do that between now and Thursday. Get into that. And in one place down the road a little bit is how we can use assessment as an intervention. I mean, just doing assessment stuff can be an intervention in and of itself. Once you establish that relationship and then you start to formulate your questions. And I truly want to I'm seeking to know right now your drug use history. I am seeking to know right now your learning history. your process to the product history and that kind of stuff like that. But guess what? As I'm asking you those questions, that can be therapeutic in and of it. You haven't thought about this stuff for a while. You haven't looked at this stuff for a while. You've been busy staying loaded enough to not have to look at this stuff for a while. Does that make sense? And so that can be therapeutic in and of itself and things like that. And so, yes, if you haven't, oh, by the way, not only do I want you to peruse between now and Thursday, if you haven't yet, get into that big handout and start to read it. But the other thing is your other handout, Brain and Behavior. I want you to get into that. We're going to start that also and go into the brain and stuff. We may even start to flirt with that this morning. But the thing is that as we establish this relationship via this, yes, 95%, right? Again, well, how do we think? Why do we think we're big shots, 18% success? One of the major reasons why counseling goes bad, or at least is not as successful as it could be, is because of poorly done assessment. Never think you got that person's number. Never think that, you guys. And counselor, I've been doing this. I've spilled more beer on my shirt than you drink. I know what I'm talking about. I know that. I know you see what I'm saying? Don't ever do that kind of stuff, you guys. You never really know that person. You seek to every day constantly better understand this person. Moving from that novathetic, the big picture, the label thing. As a matter of fact, guys, I do want a quick quiz as we did this. And again, the now. Grr. The now. And then the goal. Somebody help me. What was the first level goal?
Don't do that.
That's the don't do that no more goal. Or, in this day and age, with all due respect to different philosophies, at least change your relationship with that substance goal. Does that make sense? And again, that's the big one. That's what we're here for. This is a drug and alcohol treatment center. We're supposed to be helping people with their drug and alcohol problem. And that's good. And that's the first goal. And one of the things, we keep our eyes on the prize. When we start to talk about rational therapy, counseling, we always have to remember, this is not a learn how to think different treatment program. This is a change your drug use behavior program. We're using the thinking stuff as a way to help you accomplish that first level goal. The first level goal is the focus on, we're a substance treatment. This is what we're here for. This is what we're getting paid for. But then, what was the second level goals?
Identify specific issues that can get in the way of people.
Identifying what are the specific things about this person that will probably need to be identified and worked on in order for them to have the opportunity to move toward that first goal. Do you see what I'm saying? And again, gang, we talked about that. Whereas you need the first goal. I mean, if they got past the screening system, I guess you can assume the admission, the screening, the assessment process up there. They met with somebody first and decided they needed to be in this program. So you can kind of assume there's the substance problem there. Always check that though. Always double check. Always make sure. But it's that second level. That's where you need to know this person. You need to know this person as intimately as possible in order to know not only what are those other issues they need to work on, but remember, another thing is to know them well enough to know how I'm going to work on this issue with you. I can have, everybody in this side of the room, you all have your self-esteem problem, but how I deal with your self-esteem problem may be very different than how I deal with your self-esteem problem, which is different than how I deal with your self-esteem problem. You see what I'm saying? That's one of the big problems with these canned, let's just buy, I know, what we'll do is, we'll call it self-esteem group, we'll buy a bunch of those workbooks from Hazleton, and everybody will work through their self-esteem workbook. That's one of the reason why that doesn't work. Somebody tell me why. Why doesn't that work? What's wrong with that as I'm talking right now?
not a client-centered approach.
It's one size fits all and everything else. It does not customize that approach for the person. Yeah, you all have self-esteem. That's the ticket. That's the thing we're working on. It's been identified in your treatment plan. You need to increase your self-esteem. That's going to be one of those number 2 issues. But how I do that with each individual is going to be different. How I communicate, how I say. I want to say the exact same thing to both of you. How I say it to one may be very different than how I say it to another. You're not going to know that stuff unless you know that person as well as possible. Somebody asked on Thursday, and I'm gonna go get me a marker here in a second. Somebody asked on Thursday, but Dan, how are we gonna do all this stuff? Gee whiz, I mean, we don't have a lot of time here. That was you, I think, wasn't it? Somebody asked that? Asked the question, well, how do we do all this? That's all righteous and idealistic. Yes, nice, that's a nice idea. When the hell are we gonna do it? And that is, gang, another challenge you guys have as good counselors. You are. Those 3 limitations, what were they?
Time,
temporal limitations, the
Fiscal
limitations, and then the philosophical limitations. And one of the tricks of being a good counselor is you have to figure out how do you do the best you can even under those restrictions. Yeah, you're not going to have a lot of time. That's why you have to spend that time well with that client and do this as well as you possibly can. We're going to teach the ideal so that you, armed with that understanding and philosophy, when you get out there, you're going to do the best you can to be as close to that as possible. Does that make sense? That's so very important, you guys. And so, again, wow, any other wow points from last time? And I threw a couple things from our discussion up here. Any other wow points?
What was number 3?
Pardon me?
Number 3.
unconditional positive regard.
Oh, pardon me, thank you. Don't forget, number 3 was unconditional positive regard. Now that one can get a little bit tricky. And Rogers, I think, sometimes got that a little confusing. It's not that everything you're doing is okay. Well, I see that you just ran over a family of 4 because you were drunk. You sold drugs, bad drugs to 12-year-olds, and then you just robbed the gas station and shot the guy. And, well, we all have a bad day. We love you anyway. That's not what that is. What is it? How did I say it? A better way to look at it, unconditional positive regard is what?
True, genuine belief that the person of the
That you truly, genuinely have that belief that that person can change. And you've got to, gang, if you find yourself working with somebody and you're sitting there thinking, this person, I don't have any belief in this person at all. What would be your next right thing to do?
Pass them off to somebody else.
Well, let's say it correctly though.
Refer them to someone else.
Seek clinical supervision and then refer. Seek clinical supervision and then refer. You see what I'm saying? And again, gang, just like with empathy, you can't fake it. Don't get caught in a lie. I believe in your ability to change, and then the very next thing I say or do indicates I don't believe that. What have you done to that empathy bond? And so remember that stuff, you guys, and how that fits into and establishing this relationship. Any other wow points? What we talked about Thursday was wildly important. Any other wow points from that?
I just think that you said too, like, you have to know the past in order to know how to help the person today, and how some people say that that's not important, but
the power of it, gang, you know what, and it's a big old fight we've been having. We've been arguing about this for a long time. We're still arguing about it. And again, right now, substance abuse industry, it's the now. Who cares about the past? Mm-hmm. Right now, you have to deal with it. And I agree with that, you guys. I don't want to. I mean, it would be silly to go to the past and sit there and wring hands and cry together for the next 6 months about a number 1 or a number 2. That would be foolish and silly. And that's what they say. Well, it's foolish and silly to go back there like that. Another thing they say is what? That by going to the past, by dredging up all that past stuff, all you're doing is filling that person right now with a bunch of what? Reasons to feel bad, mad, sad, and used.
But isn't that why they're using to begin with?
That's the point.
I
My
mean,
response to both of those is, number one, yes, I agree. Now is where we need to be. And of course, looking forth to that goal. The ones and twos. Yes, we need to be with that person in the now. And that means you need to know that person as they are in the now. And one of the most important ways to know who this person is now is to know where they came from. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. It is so very important. Because if I don't, who you are today, and what you're doing, what you're thinking, this, that, all this other stuff, how you're fitting into your current, and not in calculus, your current and probably well-developed now ability for cognitive dissonance resolution and everything else. Why is this such an issue? Why all that stuff? That's the now. And if I just take that at face value, I start making assumptions, I start labeling. You see what I'm saying? No. How and why is this the way you're thinking? How and why is this that important of an issue? How and why do you react this way every time this kind of a subject comes up or something? You need to understand that. The best way to be in the now is to know how that now got there, where this person came from. We don't go to the past and just sit there and sing kumbaya and cry about shit. But you do need to know that now, that past in a way to know the now, to understand that stuff about that patient. And then the other argument about, yeah, when you dredge up all that past, all you do is make that person want to use. Well, you know what? That's kind of true. As a matter of fact, that would be right out of our chapter last semester of what? Classical conditioning. Mm-hmm. I'm just pulling out a bunch of use cue associations and sticking them in here. And if that's how I do it, that's right. It's how you do this stuff well, you guys. Do you see what I'm saying? And a very important part of that is, and I do help my client understand, why are we talking about this now? Why is it important that we go back there and look at this right now? How does that fit into? Don't forget, what have I said so many times, whether it's the classical conditioning stuff, the process of the product, all this other stuff, when we talk about the brain and all this other stuff, you need to know this for two major reasons. Number one is you need to know it. How the hell are you going to be a counselor if you don't know this stuff? What was that second major reason?
Your client needs to know it.
So that you can know this well enough to help your client understand this. To, what was that term? To help to what your client? Say it. De-insanitize. De-insanitize your client. They already are full of their self story. I'm worthless, a piece of shit, stupid, look at all the fucking dumb shit. And all, they're already full of that. They've already been told they're crazy, nuts, out of control, this and everything else. Which becomes the grandest use cue association of them all. Such a very important job is, and you can do this starting and very powerfully via assessment as you're working through this. De-insanitizing that client, helping this client understand. So when I do go to the past, I do want to make sure that I don't just dredge up a bunch of shit that's going to just be this boiling cauldron of all these bad thoughts, feelings, memories, and yeah. Another thing is, when you do this, always keep this in mind. Another just basic do-it list is, when you finish it, never let a client walk out of your office or a group therapy session with a bunch of dangling, sparking wires. Do you see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And counselors do that. They pull all this shit out and they get this and everything else, and well, I see it's 5 o'clock. We're done. We'll see you next week. Have a good week. And that person, they pulled all this shit out and then they left it sparking and dangling. Never do that. Be able to time this stuff in a way that, you know what, this is going to end. This group therapy session, this individual counseling session, or whatever it is. Don't let that client walk out that door with a bunch of dangling wire. Well, that'll be good for him. They'll learn bullshit. And counselors do that a lot. You see what I'm saying? And so, and another thing is this, guys, this is another reason why the past got a bad rap is idiot counselors who really don't know what to do or say And so what they just did was desperately pull something out of the past so they could evoke a bunch of bad feelings and get the client upset and crying, because a crying client is you see what I'm saying? Well, they're crying, that means I must be doing something. Don't do this shit just to get feelings. Why are you going to that past? To discover and know the person's now as well as you possibly can. Does that make sense? All this stuff. Any other? Then let's move on with this. And yes, this is redundant. We've looked at this already briefly last semester, but it is such a very important starting point. From the very first, hello, how you doing? And from that point on, and being aware of, what do we call it? The threats to early recovery. And we did go over this. I just want to look at this again real quick, just to remind you that never. Gang, this is one of those lists. This is one of those lists. Have this somewhere in your office where you can maybe have it taped to the bottom of your desk drawer, or maybe someplace where you can look at this and remind yourself of this stuff once in a while. This is one of those lists. Keep this handy. Never forget this stuff. Be vigilant, aware of these issues, these things. Gang, not every client who walks out of that first session, not every client who relapses after 3 sessions, not every client who, it's because they were full of shit, they didn't want to get better. No. Very often, an individual can be of true, genuine, real desire to change. Real, want this. But then one of these threats comes along, unaddressed. You're not recognizing it, that client's not. They don't understand this shit. You're not seeing it, and it takes hold, and the next thing you know, this individual, they were ready, they were this, they were that, and they become overwhelmed with one of these issues right here. Keep this list handy. Paste it to the bottom of your desk drawer, or someplace where you can, maybe just in your carry around notebook or whatever you're using, remind yourself of these. And so let's look at these again. They're so very important. First of all, of course, withdrawal syndrome. Withdrawal syndrome. Now, we're going to get into, again, the brain, and we are going to get into all of the neurophysiology and pharmacology of how the brain works, how drugs work in the brain, including things like tolerance and withdrawal. Marijuana does have a withdrawal syndrome. Cocaine does have a withdrawal syndrome. Every damn thing you put in your body has a withdrawal syndrome, you guys. Think about this. Water has a withdrawal syndrome. If you don't think so, go out to the desert without water for a couple of days and see what happens. You see what I'm saying? Everything you put in your body has a withdrawal syndrome. These drugs, again, right now, people are waking up. And the only thing that matters to them right now, not the kids, not the job, not the other responsibilities, not the fact that they promised themselves they would change. The only thing that matters to that person right now is what?
Not getting sick.
Not being dope sick, and I will do anything it takes. And that's not just heroin or opiates, you guys. Understand this stuff and help that client. I talk to that client very quickly and educate that client about this and about withdrawal. I help that client understand and know I do understand that this is. And gang, the first time you see a client, well, that means, well, they're already clean. No, it doesn't mean that. The first time you see a client may be that their last use was 6, 7, 8 hours ago. You see what I'm saying? There's a very good chance. And again, they are. They're ready, willing. Wow, I'm feeling good about this. This person's really, this is genuine. And the next thing you know, help that client. One of the first things you want to find out is, when was your last use? Do find out from this person. Because they probably had. They know what withdrawal is, what jonesing is for that particular substance or whatever their substances are. Find out that stuff. Help that client understand you understand. Help that client. What are ways we can work through this, get through this? You see what I'm saying with that? And sometimes, especially if it's multiple drug use, and this could happen. You haven't used for 18, 19, 20 hours. You look fine. You're probably done with the withdrawal, don't worry about it. Depending on multi-drug use, one of those other drugs may be for stalling. And you think everything's fine, 3 hours from now, you're kicked in the ass. You see what I'm saying? Help that client understand this. Be looking for, number one, withdrawal. This client knows how to get right, get better real fast. They are terrified of that. They're terrified of that withdrawal. They will do anything it takes to avoid that. And so don't assume that by the time that client gets into your, well, they must be done with withdrawal by now. That's not really an issue, is it? Yes, it could be an issue. Yes, it could be. Does that make sense? Be aware of this. Help that client know. Do understand. What are those drugs? What is that client's withdrawal history? When was the last time they used? I mean, here's another thing that clients do. They just got out of jail. Hell, they were in county, locked up for the last 3.5 weeks, waiting for this bed. They don't have withdrawal. But you know, how many of them, though, last night, knowing they were coming into treatment this morning? And believe it or not, well, they just got out of jail. Believe it or not, that precious little hour and a half, they figured out one last party before. You see what I'm saying? You never know that kind of stuff, you guys. Be ready.
You have to think about that too. Like, even though you're in jail, you can still use.
Well, that's another thing.
I mean, I know people who came in jail that had heroin crotched and the whole pod was getting high. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So.
Absolutely. So be aware of this, you guys. And don't assume, well, withdrawal's over. You don't have to worry about that. No, you don't know that for sure. Watch out for that. Second, right with it, post-acute withdrawal. And now, what is this? What is post-acute withdrawal? Somebody can say, gang, this is a big one. Gang, this is one that scares the hell out of the client. I thought I was done with all this shit, and all of a sudden, all of us, this client, they have done the right thing. They've taken the right steps. They're doing this, they're doing that. And all of a sudden, they're feeling like hell. Sleep disorders, use or other drug dreams, very labile affect. Don't anybody in this room let me say that without making me make sure you know what that means. If somebody didn't know, say, Kels, what the hell was that?
Kels, what the hell was that?
Labile affect. Their mood is just bouncing all over the playing field. Happy, sad, mad, glad, this, that, and everything else for no good apparent reason. It's just a very, just their feelings, their emotional status bouncing around the room all over the place. For not a good, I mean, you're in a good mood and then all of a sudden I give you some very bad news. Well, of course you're going to, all of a sudden you're not in such a good mood. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about labile affect, where they are just bouncing all over the playing field without good, understandable reason. Does that make sense? Labile affect. You'll see mood, affect, incongruence. Well, this person, what is that? Somebody, don't you ever let me say something. And somebody, everybody know what I mean with that? We didn't talk about that last semester, but yes.
Congruence.
Mood, affect, incongruence.
Isn't that where, like, what? Well, because mood is how you feel, and affect is how people think you, or how you're pretending like you feel.
I'm feeling fine. I'm feeling good. Cry, cry, cry.
Yeah.
I'm feeling bad, mad, sad. Ha, ha, ha. Laugh, laugh, laugh. You'll see that. Again, extremes in mood. Very pain. discomfort, unexplainable anxiety, malaise.
I just couldn't think for shit. I couldn't complete a thought.
Cognitive interruptions, concentration, attention, all those kinds of things. All that stuff, this person's experiencing this. They are feeling like shit. And why is that? I mean, think about this for a minute. I did the right thing. I'm doing the right thing. I'm doing this, I'm doing that, and everything. I quit. In fact, I had a withdrawal syndrome, and it wasn't pleasant, but we got through it. And I'm in treatment, I'm going to meeting, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, whatever it is. And all of a sudden, I'm feeling like pure hell here.
Because your brain's...
I'm afraid to go to bed at night because the frustration, I can't sleep, and when I do sleep, I'm having nightmares. Mm-hmm. Drug dreams. I'm angry all the time. I'm this, I'm that. I don't feel good. And all these things, and that kind of, what the hell is this all about? And gang, don't forget that basic motivation to explain it, know it. And if there's not somebody else there that knows what this is, that can help this client understand this. Or sometimes it's even more dangerous, when there is somebody there that don't know what they're talking about, that is explaining this to that client. They think, oh shit, you know what, damn. First of all, this is what I quit using for? I feel worse now than when I was loaded. This is what recovery is? And besides that, and this happens, you guys, this person is going to explain it to themselves. And if they got no other explanation, they'll find one for themselves. How about this one? Other people are going to be okay, but I did one too many. I crossed that line. I'm never going to be okay. This is which means what? If I'm going to hell, I may as well go in style. You see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Relapse. Hey, how about this one? Once again, other people, I pissed off the big guy one too many times. Mm-hmm. I broke the rules. I did the bad stuff one too many times. This is my just reward. Once again, this is it for me. Oh shit. If I'm going to hell, I may as well go in style. You see what I'm saying with this? Or whatever else. I'm crazy. I'm nuts. I'm supposed to be feeling good about this. I'm supposed to be feeling happy right now. I feel like pure shit. Hell, this is worse than when I was using. And gang, you have to help. What is this? What is this going on? Basically, what it is you're right now in this early recovery, your body and brain are real mad at you. You understand what I'm saying? You've done a lot of shit that has poked that body and brain in lots of ways, and they're real mad at you, right? And besides that, on top of everything else, you enjoying this addiction and addiction lifestyle, I finally got used to that, and now everything's changing again. Two of the most important, and this is critically important for post-acute withdrawal, two of the most important things so often underappreciated, underfunded, underdone in treatment, that can be so important. Your body is a complete mess. Think about it. Your lifestyle constantly invading, insulting that system, and your brain included. With the drug, with the cutting agents, with all the other shit. You have had lousy. You can see. You can see. In a day, you can see a 270-pound person starving to death. Why? Hey, they get $5 in their pocket, $4.50 goes for the drugs. They're lucky 50 cents for a bag of chips and maybe a half a can of soda. Their nutrition, the stress, the constant stress, the injuries, the poisons they're putting in their system. That the incredibly interrupted sleep cycles. Gang, one of the quickest, easiest ways to unwrap somebody fast You don't need drugs. You don't need to whack them in the head with a board. Just deprive them of sleep. And I'm telling you, gang, hey, guess what sleeping pills don't really do?
Help you sleep.
They don't get you sleep. They knock you out. But what people, and even stimulants, the downers, alcohol, had a hard day, I'm really wired up, I need to drink, I need to have a few belts because I need some sleep. You're drinking enough, it'll knock you out, and what is it you're not getting? What's the major issue there?
REM.
Huh?
REM.
REM. The REM sleep. We need that. We don't even, still know for sure why. We need that REM. I'm kind of sneaking into brain stuff right here as we talk today. We got to have it. All of these drugs, all of that stress. Hey, gang, we talked about that. Remember the stop sign? Remember the stop sign? All that stop sign is knocked to hell. The neural functioning, that body is a mess. Everything. And it doesn't all just get better because you quoted a first step and went to a meeting. As a matter of fact, this period of time, getting back to, hopefully, close to normal. 6 months, a year, year and a half, 2 years. It's going to take a while for this to get better. You see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Now, this can be especially acute in the beginning, and it's scaring the hell out of this person. They're saying, what the fuck, this is what I quit for? I feel worse now than ever. Fuck this. You see what I'm saying with that? This client, you have to help this client understand what this is. And it's not the final judgment. It's not that you did one too many. It's not, you see what I'm saying? It's not God's getting even with you now or something. What is it? The natural, physiological way of things. And your body's real, and I use the word, your body and brain are really pissed off at you right now. And it's going to take time for them to calm down. Let's talk about the symptoms. What are you experiencing? What is this? What is that? Help that client. Of course, there can be ameliorative things for this. The only problem is that this throw a pill at everything way of clinical today is, well, you're not sleeping, let's give you a sleeping pill. Well, you're this or that, let's give you this. Next thing you know, they load you up on a bunch of what? Psychiatric meds. Which is not helping that body get better. Don't forget, gang, what was that thing called? State trait? Somebody tell me right now, state trait. Quick review from last semester is so very important. State trait, what was that?
The state is how you are at the present time, and trait is something that will continue to occur regardless of.
And so here you are. You're 4 days since your last. You're maybe a couple weeks, maybe a month since your last use, and you're all bent out of shape and all this and all that and everything else. Well, you say, you're not sleeping at night. Here's a sleeping pill. You have a sleep disorder. You're all pissed off and bummed out. You don't know, here's an antidepressant, man. You're worried about a lot of stuff and everything. Here's some Xanax. And then what are we doing? We are diagnosing a state there, aren't we? That person is in a state of affairs called post-acute withdrawal. You don't diagnose people in states. You have to see that trait thing. All that kind of stuff, you guys. And so this post-acute can be dreadfully dangerous for early recovery. You have to become aware of this, and it's going to be a different, very unique experience for every person. And you have to be aware of this and help this person understand that you do understand, and help this person understand what this is and why. And it is not. It's not what they probably think. And you know, I did one too many. I am a fucked up mess anyway. No wonder I did. No, help. Don't let that energy get going. Help this person understand what this is. Help them learn how to work through it. What are the appropriate state-based ameliorative things you can do? Does that make sense? And help this client with that. That's a major, major threat. And I'm going through these quicker than I did before, but these are so damn important, you guys. From the very first handshake, and from that point on, being aware of this stuff. Again, what is this? Do we need to burden ourselves. Does everybody get this one? The power. Look at what we did last semester. The power. How we stepped out of Pavlov's lab into real life. Classical conditioning. Those use cue associations. And gang, from the very split second, you're the intake person. I'm going to do this. This is the time, I promise you. I'm not going to let you down. I'm going to do this. I walk back there. I never met you before, but there's something, and the next thing I'm running out that door. Fuck this place. Well, he didn't want to get better. Well, he was sort of shit. No. It was probably classical conditioning can be that powerful with this stuff. You see what I'm saying? Look at the power of thoughts, memories. Look at the... Again, that damn cup. I wish you would quit bringing that. The person I used to get loaded with every day, that's exactly the same. Guess what? That's all it takes, you guys. You see what I'm saying? I told you about that. Had that student. I asked another student, please quit bringing that cup to class. It was one of those giant gas station soda cups. Because that's how they carried their alcohol drink. That's all it took. They finally said, please, could you bring a different way to bring your stuff? Quit bringing that into class. And the other person respected them. That was cool. It was a good lesson that day. Look at the power of this. And guys, you're never going to know. I mean, you got a 21-year-old, a 33-year-old, a 17-year-old, a 44-year-old. Their life is full at that point of classical conditioning. You're never going to get them all. But what's the big thing here? At least look for the biggies to start with, especially. What are the biggies here? This is it. All it's going to take is one split second of this one. I'm out of here. Look for the biggies, you guys. Look for the biggies. And then also help this person. Again, gang, how did it go? How did we start the whole learning theory section? If only one person would have one day sat that guy down one day and told him, guess what? It's going to happen. It doesn't mean you're a big dumb asshole. It means what? Well, basically what it means is what? Your brain's working pretty good, but unfortunately, this is how it works. Help that person understand this. Because they are going to. They're bound and determined. They're going to do right and everything else. But they're walking on very thin ice, and they're and everything else. They're unsure of themselves. They're afraid of this. And then one stupid thing, all of a sudden I'm thinking about alcohol. Well, fuck, see, that's all it takes? That's it. I guess fuck this. I'm not going to make it. That's how vulnerable that person. Help that person understand. No, that doesn't mean that. Help this person understand this, which means you need to understand classical conditioning well enough to teach it to somebody else. You need to know this. That's why you're going to be having that shoved in your face every test for the rest of this program, because you need to know this. Your client needs you to know this. And classical conditioning is so very powerful. You see what I'm saying with this? 2 minutes inside that treatment center and I'm out of here. Because all it did, one little thing, that's all it took. Well, that's because he was weak, wasn't really serious, didn't really want it in the first. No, bullshit. That's because that's how the brain works and the power of classical conditioning. Do you understand what I'm saying with this stuff, you guys? Don't ever turn that on that client the other way. I will hunt you down. You see what I'm saying with this? Everybody cool? What's the next one then? Right after that. And I know, we're just remembering. This is so important. The fears, the floaty things. Did you ever think you were going to come to college and have a professor talk to you about floaty things? Somebody tell me what I mean. Oh, shoot. Would you do me a favor? I can't tie my shoes.
Yeah.
And because I keep, would you? And so I'm half tying.
This is the part that trips me up more than the floating things.
Be a floaty thing when you have shoe tie.
I was okay with the college teacher who talked about floaty things, but when you needed someone to tie your shoes.
I did. Every time I try and tie my shoe, I'm banging this, and it's still raw hamburger at the end.
Gross. That is the grossest thing you've ever done.
And it's starting to heal, and it's starting to show signs that but it's still very, very, very. And so I can't tie my shoes, and that keep coming. But gang, what were those? What did I mean? Somebody tell me. What am I talking about? The floating things. What am I talking about?
Somebody,
Success.
And what did I mean by that?
somebody not being afraid of success, but afraid of failure.
That's one thing. One of the stupidest, damnedest, silliest, worthless, most stupidest things I've ever heard. And you're not paying attention. That is, don't you ever say that. What a stupid ass thing to say to a client. What the hell are you talking? That client's not afraid of success. They are terrified of failure. This client, don't forget, their addiction, survival persona, all of the ways that they now think, interpret things, reason themselves through stuff, all of the ways that they give meaning to other people, and this and that. It is all designed as a way to protect them from the realities they don't want to face. Gang, once again, this person's not stupid. They see, feel, are experiencing those costs. How do I live with myself and keep doing this at these costs? Look what's happening to my kids. Look what's happening to this and everything else. How do I live with myself? They have to figure that out. And then we come along. I'm here to help you. And again, what was that metaphor I used? You're bobbing up and down in very heavy waters in Lake Michigan. You fell out of your boat, and the only thing you have is your life preserver, your floating thing. And I row up to you and I say, don't you worry, I'm here to help you. And I'm going to get you in this boat, and I'm going to get you back to safety. But the first thing before I can let you in this boat is, you got to throw away your floaty thing. Let it all go. That client, that terrifies that client. That terrifies that client. Scaring the hell out of them. They can't do that. I'll die. You must let go of your floating stuff. Let go of your, and then I will help you. You see? And if you won't let go of your floaty thing, that means you don't really want the help. You don't really want to get back. Do you realize how fucking stupid that is? Do you realize that, you guys? Don't you do that to that person. We had 2 levels of the floaty things. What was the first level of the floaty thing?
Their drug of choice.
The drug in the first place. Gang. And we're going to see once we get into that brain. Like real soon now. The way that drug works in that brain. It is, guess what? Heroin and all of the drugs, the heroines especially, but any of these drugs, one of the major things they do, they hit a part of that brain. The same part of the brain that is related to love, passion, and sex. It's the same part of the brain. You hear that person talking, they talk about that drug as their best friend, their lover. And you sit there, what the fuck are you saying now? What the hell's wrong with you? What do you mean they're a lover? That's kind of weird, isn't it? You idiot counselor, go get a different job. You got to understand this. I mean, those drugs, they light up the same parts of that brain that are directly involved in. Hey, the exhilaration of early love, passion, sexuality. They light up the same parts of the brain. This is their best friend. It is the only person they can count on. You see what I'm saying with that? It is the only, it is this. They are terrified of letting that go. There are people waking up right now, they can't imagine getting out of bed, putting their socks on, let alone joining life without their drug. They can't imagine. They don't know how. They can't imagine beginning a day without their drug. You see what I'm saying? They're terrified. And of course, they're going to let that go. That one, yeah, that is one of those realities. This is drug treatment. We're not going to be able to hold group therapy here while we're all shooting cocaine, smoking dope, mixing up cocktails. It's probably not going to work very good. That one's got to go. But you have to have an empathetic understanding of the fear this person's having with this. And then, and I think in some ways even stronger, what was the second level fear? Letting that survival persona go. All the ways that I've learned. Gang, once again, think about this. There are people out there right now, not just for tonight because they got a party on or something. Every day they're getting 30, 40 controlled pills. How did somebody do that? You got to get real good at stuff to be able to pull that off, don't you? You got to be really clever and do a lot of really cool, good at stuff in order to pull something like that off. Every day spending $200, $300, $400 a day on whatever other drug or whatever. You see what I'm saying? You got to get real good at stuff. Avoiding the consequences. How do you get that spouse? How have you done that they have allowed this to happen for the last 5.5 years in their life? How have you pulled that up? You got to be real good at stuff. This is this person's way of surviving. And they come into treatment, and you got to let all that go. You got to change everything. We're going to rip you open, inside out, and everything else. And that scares the hell out of that person, you guys. This is where, what did we say one time? How did it go, those three things?
Right thing.
Right thing, wrong
Right time.
Right thing, wrong way. Right thing, wrong
Motivation.
Motivational status. Hi, welcome to treatment. We're going to help you and everything else. And oh, by the way, I want you to realize and remember something. You will never, never, ever, 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 never, 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 ever, ever, never, 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 ever, 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 ever do that again. You understand what I'm saying? If you ever do, it's like you're a child. That person's not ready for that yet. They're not quite. You know, it's funny. AA, one day at a time. Maybe for a while it's 1 minute at a time. And then that 1 day at a time, we tell you that, but then we say in the very next breath, and by the way, never, 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 never again. What the fuck? If that person, that's scaring that person. Do you understand what I'm saying? This is bottom line, raw dog counseling here. How to do this right and well. And from the very start, if we don't get this stuff, we're not on top of this stuff, who cares about how good we are at how to do motivational interviewing or cognitive restructuring? That client's not there no more. Bottom line with this, help that person. Help that person, you understand. And this is another thing, guys, and counselors, that client needs to feel safe expressing those fears. Mm-hmm. I'm afraid of letting my drug. What the fuck do you mean you're afraid of that? What the hell's wrong with you? You know what? Maybe you're so full of shit you don't even know what you're talking about. Maybe what do you mean you're afraid of? What did I do? Did I just show you how to deal with life, or did I just show you keep your mouth shut with me? Because you see what I'm saying? That kind of a thing like that. Don't make those mistakes, you guys. Don't do that kind of stuff.
Doesn't that go hand in hand with empathy bond, though? Like if you form that empathy bond and you do it right and you establish everything right, then they should feel safe with you anyway?
We would hope, yes.
Yeah.
But again, especially in the beginning, that's a very fragile empathy bond.
Right.
It's not going to take much to break it.
Right.
Yeah, they're going to feel, okay, and this, they don't know how to feel safe with somebody.
Right.
Don't forget, part of that addiction survival persona is don't trust nobody.
Yep.
You don't put too much of yourself in anybody's hands. That's part of the survival persona. And now all of a sudden, they're putting, that's a scary thing for them too. There's that, but it's going to be very fragile. It's not going to take much to mess it up or even ruin it. So yes, with that. Yeah, those floating things. And let that client know it is safe to talk about this stuff. I'll tell you another thing, gang, and I know this sounds so antithesis to a counselor. What did I say one day?
It's okay to mourn the loss of your
Let
girl.
that person grieve the loss of that stuff. Let that person grieve the loss of their drug. And I know that sounds so antithesis. What do you mean, grieve the loss? They ought to be glad it's gone. What are you talking about, grieve the loss? What? No, gang. That is a loss in their life. It's a major loss in that person's life. You understand what I'm saying? Grieved loss is unfinished business that will come back and haunt recovery. Does that make sense? And I know on the surface it sounds like, what are you talking about? Grieve the one that ought to be glad it's gone. What the fuck are you talking? Gang, ungrieved loss is unfinished business that can come back and haunt recovery. Pretty cool? Let's take a break. Get back and continue. Guys, who's glad we're doing this? Reminding you of this. This bottom line, gang,